Welcome to Crime Survivors Speak. My name is Aswad Thomas. I'm the National Director of Crime Survivor Safety and Justice. We are a national network of 200,000 victims of crime from across the country. If you haven't already subscribed, you can do that on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other streaming services by clicking the link on your screen or going to the website at www.cssj.org/podcast. Oh man, I'm excited today. I get to talk to my brother. Today we're honored to be joined by Dion Green, a survivor, advocate, and the founder of the Fudge Foundation, an organization dedicated to supporting victims of mass violence and also promoting community healing and well-being as well. Dion's life changed forever in 2019 when he survived the Dayton, Ohio mass shooting that took 9 lives, including his father, Derek Fudge. Since then, he has turned his pain to purpose, fighting for survivor resources, safe firearm storage, and also legal accountability for gun manufacturers. In this conversation, we'll hear all about his personal journey, his advocacy work, and what real justice and healing look like for survivors. Dion, welcome to the Crime Survivors Speak podcast.
Man, appreciate you, man. Thank y'all for allowing me to be here. It's always a great feeling being in the room with you, and just you always give me that boost of energy to want to keep fighting as well too, brother.
Appreciate it, man. It's always great to be in this work with other Black men who have survived trauma and who are healing through action. So I'm excited about today's conversation. I love for our listeners to get to know you a little better. Can you tell us something about yourself that people might not know? Maybe a hobby that you enjoy or something that brings joy in your day-to-day life?
One of the things that bring me joy in life is just being around family. I love canoeing and being on the water. In those moments, everybody on the river or on the lake are just having a good time. It's just a day of healing to me. So, if people don't know that or if they never try that, just being out on the water, leaving all your phones behind and technology and just meeting the people on the water and having a good time, reconnecting with nature and yourself is what brings me joy and healing.
That's amazing. So enjoying nature, being on the water. I have also found a new passion, a new love for hiking as well. So that's something that I do at least 3 or 4 times a week, is going hiking and being in nature as well. So you got to come hiking with me one day, and one day I'll get on the water with you.
I'm ready.
Dion, your story and your family's story is one of tremendous loss, resilience, and purpose. Would you share as much of your survivor experiences as you're comfortable with from that mass shooting that took your father away and impacted you and others in that community? And also tell us how you've turned your pain into the mission of the work you do now.
Yes, sir. The year 2019 was a moment that changed my life forever. It started in May 31st when Dayton was hit by the 18 tornadoes and my house got plummeted by the tornadoes, but that whole area got ravaged by the tornadoes. And then 35 days later, on August 4th, 2019, while I didn't know what to do next from my house being taken away, I went canoeing, being on the water, and I had a great time. And while I was down in Springfield, my mother lives in Springfield, so I stopped at my mother's to speak to her, but I called my father to let him know I was in town and if he wanted to come hang out. Just being at my mother's, I never forget that day. It was a beautiful day. I said, let me just enjoy myself and be around great people. So that's what drove me to Springfield to get on the river. While I was at my mom's, my father came over. We was talking. I said, hey, you want to come back to Dayton? Here in Dayton, we have an entertainment district called the Oregon District, where the University of Dayton students attend, and just the local community and people that come from out of town. The street of nothing but restaurants and bars and clubs. After we got off the water, we came up to Dayton, picked up my child's mother. My sister came up with her husband. So it was a good time that I got to see everybody, because during the tornadoes, I was so stressed out just to be around my family, and we was having a great time. My father has always been like my son, always took care of my father. My father had a very rough life growing up, and the situation that transpired from this event really bothers me, because out of all those years, his 57 years of living, my father really got to realize what life was really about, and that was not getting in trouble no more and just being with family and just enjoying his grandchild. I said, you know what, let's just get out of here. I'm ready to go to bed. So me, my father, and my child's mother, we left the club. My sister and her husband was still inside of there. So as we exit the building onto the sidewalk, there's a taco stand that's right there. We're standing in the line. While we're standing in the line, I just see a gentleman walk down the side of a building with a body armor and a big long assault weapon onto the sidewalk. And as he walked onto the sidewalk, you just see him just start shooting and stuff like that. But in that moment, I'm not believing this is happening because the Oregon District is very, very heavily armed with police officers. And it's just an area where you don't think this type of situation will happen at. But as he walks over to the other side of the street where his life was taken, trying to get into another club, me and him lined up eye to eye, and I'm looking at him just like, what are you doing? And I never forget, like, all he had to do was flick his wrist, and I probably would have been dead. But come to find out that my father and his sister was aligned directly in front and behind of each other. So I'm saying, hey, Pops, get up. We're getting the H up out of here. But while I'm telling him to get up, the individual in front of me has said they've been shot. So now I'm attending to the individual in front of me saying, are you all right? Trying to check on her. But I'm also trying to call the police at that time. But while I'm trying to call the police, everybody else is calling the police because now it's mayhem going on. People's running, people's falling. As I'm attending to her, attending back to my father, checking on my father, he's just laying there with his eyes open. And I'm just like, Dad, get up. What's going on? So something just told me to kneel down and take my phone out and shine it on his chest. And then as I took the phone and shining around his head and shoulders, I started to see the blood coming out of my father's head and his shoulders. In that moment, I started doing CPR. I started yelling for help. I'm going crazy while there's a full-blown assault going on in the middle of the street between the police and the shooter. And in those moments, as my father is just looking there with his eyes open like he wanted to say something, I could see that he was struggling. So I stopped administering CPR, and I just wrapped my arms around my father and kept telling him I loved him. Like, get up, man. You done been through way much more than this. Get up. And in that moment, I just hugged my father. And now the troopers have come onto the scene, and they had to pry me from my father. They took me across the street to where the Oregon District sign's at. While people having their phones out, I'm knocking phones away and all of this out of people's hands. When I seen them throw over the white sheet, I just ran back to my father and fell out on the concrete and just was immediately beating the pavement up. I don't know what just happened. I just know I came with 5 people and I'm leaving with 4. And one of those people that's not leaving with me is my father. So in that moment, they take me down the street to the Dub Pub. Some of the survivors that were still on the streets where they can ask questions. So they put us on the bus, but I ended up tearing that whole bus up, and they just said, Dion, just go home. We'll be there to talk to you. And then that morning, they come and they're asking questions and this and that. So it was a lot that was going on. And then, just realizing as the autopsy come back, my father got shot 5 times right beside me, and not one of those bullets touched me. In the beginning of my fight, I kept asking, why me? You attacked me in May with the tornadoes that took my house, and then months later, you take my father from me. I just kept saying, why me? And now I just say, why not me? People just always kept saying, Dion, at least you was there with your fathers in those last moments. At first, I didn't understand that. That made me so mad. But I always say, as a parent, a mother, or a father, what is the one thing that you give your life for? And that's your child. So for my dad to be able to transition and not see his son laying beside him, I hope it gave him peace. And now I'm here fighting for him and many others because he gave me the opportunity to continue to create a legacy, not for him, but for many. I fight for my father, but it's bigger than him. I was in that stage where you was just questioning God every moment, like, why me? But why not? They say he don't put nothing on your shoulders that you can't handle. So I guess this was already in the works. It was already written. One of the topics that I always speak about is choices. Every day we wake up, we have a choice. You had the choice to be on this podcast. I had a choice to be on it. I had the choice to be angry and not do nothing, or step in it and make something out of this, hopefully create change and be able to help others. Because especially just being a black man, I went through a lot by myself. Nobody had to suffer in silence.
Dion, you're just so strong, man. How you just look at life and just like, why not you? I can't imagine what that experience was like for you to be on that scene, and not just having your father taken away from you, but there were other lives that were lost that night. Just seeing the trauma and the loss that happened on that night. And we often don't talk about that mass shooting enough as we should. Through that experience of you witnessing that shooting and losing your father, we working with a lot of the victims and families impacted by that shooting. Think about the days, the weeks, the months, the years. What support were made available to you and your family and that community of survivors that was impacted by that incident?
I'm gonna be honest with you. My support came from pretty much family and from organizations out of the state of Ohio. And starting to meet people and other survivors reaching out, loving on me, giving me their ears and their shoulder to cry on. And when it was time for me to start asking those questions on what's next, they was there. But I didn't have that guidance on what to do next, how to file for this paperwork, how to do this and that. It was frustrating at the same time while I'm still trying to understand, what am I doing? Am I burying my father? From a day that we just had laughs, and now in 5-7 days, I'm saying my final goodbye. I remember getting letters from the synagogue from Pittsburgh sending love, and then Sandy and Lonnie Phillips from the Colorado shooting that reached out and just was giving me the love and just comforting me. I didn't feel alone, but here in Ohio, I felt alone. Back to that night, I always tell people that was a nightmare. When I had to walk to that end of that block to get on that bus, do you know how many bodies I had to step over? Mm-hmm. It's not just that night, it's a vision. As I'm talking to you now, I'm replaying it visually. And that's what created me to help do what I do here, because I'm like, why are we not being helped more and being directed and guided to these resources? Hey, this is what's happening, this is what's going on. And that's what created my foundation. My father got denied victim crime compensation because he was 9 years and 6 months from not being in trouble, and it had to be 10. He didn't ask to die, and there were so many others being denied that type of help and assistance in those moments. And I'll always say, somebody going through something like that shouldn't have to worry about how to bury their loved one. But I just kept fighting. That's been my whole journey. Nobody gave me a playbook. I just show up. But I'm intentional from the heart. Some doors might try to close, and I put that foot in there, and I keep showing up. And then sometimes I get to walk in that door, and now I'm at the table. I start to go to the State House and speak. That's how I start learning about CSSJ and how they advocate and all the great work that y'all doing. And what happened? We got it changed here.
Man, just you and I, we've known each other for years, and to just hear that your family was denied victim compensation, the justice system and victim services failed, your family failed, so many communities across the country, but the support that you receive from the other community of survivors, the other organizations in this work, and you also connecting with Crime Survivor for Safety and Justice, we were able to change that law in Ohio that removed barriers to the victim compensation program to help increase more access to compensation, but also know there's still barriers that exist as well. We've made a lot of progress, but still more work needs to be done as it relates to removing barriers, helping people get access to services. So in honor of your father, you created the Fudge Foundation to support all victims, especially victims of mass violence. Can you share a little bit more kind of what inspires you to start this work, and what are some of the services and resources that your foundation provides, not only in Ohio, but also across the country?
The Fudge Foundation is in honor of my father, Derek Fudge. That's the acronym, but it stands for Flourishing Under Distress, Giving Encouragement. And I mean, right now in the shape of this country, man, we're under distress and looking for leaders to encourage us. From being denied that service, I never forget the day of my father's funeral, I get a letter from the Attorney General's office saying that you've been denied. Do you want to appeal? and I ripped that letter up. And it had to come on the day that I'm about to say my last goodbyes to my father. You know, that was what driven me to start that foundation, because not only did it happen to me, I was hearing from those that were still here living that was being denied the services and the help to thrive later on in life. It was sad to see this happening. So I took the step out in faith and created my nonprofit, and ever since then I show up in communities far and wide. A lot of people don't even know these things exist. So we have to bring that awareness. Having these meetings, having these town halls, saying, hey, have you heard of this? Have you heard of that? Because a lot of people don't even know that these funds even exist.
Yeah.
Some of the things that I'm still having an issue with here in Ohio is every 88 county haven't been updated. Families are still calling me saying, Dion, I'm being denied. Please have them reach out to me or give them the number so I can reach out to them and say, hey, this has been changed. I couldn't apply because that was the year 2019. I came home in 2015. I did 9 years in prison. So I was going to get denied all around the board. But as I was speaking on the state house and speaking to them saying, how do you expect us to move forward? If we don't address this issue, I'll always use this because the beginning of this was me. When the shooting happened, if I'm not getting the help, I'm coping with alcohol, I'm not sleeping, I'm missing bills, I don't care about nothing. I shared what the cycle would look like. So it goes from substance abuse, from being on alcohol. But while you're doing that, you don't care about nothing else in life. So now you're missing bills. So now you have a chance of becoming homeless. So now you go to something higher to help mask what you're running from. So now you're on hard drugs, but now to get those drugs, you done lost everything. Here comes crime. So you have substance abuse, homelessness, and crime that evolves around that if we don't take care of those that are still here and give them everything that we can offer them for them to be productive and be able to thrive and give them some sense of joy in life again.
So often we don't talk about the ripple effects of trauma that it have on our lives, our families, our households, you know, us being able to take care of our families, our bills, right? I was always honored to meet you because you saw the need in your community and wanted to help your family and survivors. But there's been other mass shootings. Buffalo, I know you've been to Buffalo and supporting those families. Maine, really across the country. I'm curious to hear from you in those communities. What has been some of the common themes that's been coming up for you as it relates to access to victim services?
So this is a good question because when I go to these communities, after they have experienced something that I have experienced, first and foremost, I need to let them know they're not alone, especially in communities that are Black and brown. I need to let them know that they're not alone. There are people here that cares for you and wants to see the best. But also, not only am I focused on the families, I'm also trying to focus on the elected officials or the police who's working in situations, just being mindful. Hey, if you're going to release something, make sure the family knows before the public knows. I'm giving them everything that I didn't have. So I'm making sure that they're being mindful and being respectful. But also, as I go to these places, Nova shows up, right? So they know me on a face-to-face basis. But also, there's a trust part too. So when you're in certain communities that look like us, we know that you come there for 5-6 days and then you disappear. And then I got to keep sharing my story to somebody else. You don't have to share that with me. I know what you've been through. I work with CSSJ. I work with so many organizations across the country. So if you go through something, Mr. Thomas, when you're ready, I can get you in support groups. This is advocacy. They do mental health. So I know organizations for all over around the country. So when you're ready to advocate on whatever it looks like, if you want to, because some people do, some people don't want to be a part of it because it relives them. But I have to show up to let them know, don't just bring these resources today and they gone tomorrow. Because even if my shooting happened in 2019, don't tell me how fast I need to process my trauma. My trauma might start really affecting me probably tomorrow, 2025. Are those resources still available?
Yep.
I just go there to hold them accountable, but to also let them know, like, hey, I'm not trying to tell you how to do it, but I'm sharing what I've been through and I see the ripple effects and what it looks like in certain communities, like even with Nova, like Dion. A lot of people don't like really coming into these places because you're here today, going tomorrow. I go to the community. I love on the community. I cry with them because I'm still healing. So we cry together. And I don't go there pushing resources on them because, first of all, it starts with trust. and relationships. So I go there, love on them. Hey, this is my number. They give me theirs and I check on them. So during the whole time, I'm calling, just checking on them. Hey, you been out the house? Because we know when trauma comes, trauma's side chick is depression and isolation. So we know that kicks in real quick. And I let you process a little bit because it's natural to go through that, but I don't want you to go through it too long. So I'll call and say, hey, how you doing? You been out? Oh, let's get out. We need to get out. Just move around. But then once they build the trust, then they start calling, hey, Dion, are them resources still available? Do you know if they're... So now I'm not walking them through the door. If they want me to walk with them because they don't feel comfortable or safe, then I will. But now I'm not beating resources on them. They're asking about it. So basically, I'm just a connector, building bridges, but also making sure that trust is involved because we know that there's not a lot of trust when it comes to these things because you're here today and going tomorrow. And then I'm sitting here sharing my story again to the next person, to the next person, to the next person. We just become a name on a list on who they served and what they filed to get more money for the next grant. But nothing has really changed.
And so your key role as a survivor in working with families all across the country is like peer-to-peer support, right? Being able to show up for folks, being able to let folks know that you know what they're going through because you experienced it, and also being able to help connect them to services and support. The relationships that you have with other organizations and being able to offer that and not forcing them to access those services, right? But when they are ready to seek that support because of that trust has been built with you, they reach back out to you, then you're able to connect them to services. So if you want to learn more about the Fudge Foundation, you go to fudgefoundation.org, learn more about Dion and his incredible work and support the work that he's doing. And also, Dion, you do a lot of other work as well, right? So you also serve on the boards of several organizations, including like Felons with a Future in Upturn, Ohio. You also mentioned your experience with the justice system. So how do you see the intersections between gun violence, incarceration, and economic justice?
When I travel, the goal was to bring hope. That's why I go there too, to let them know that it is possible to come out of that dark tunnel. And with the boards, so I sit with Felons with the Future, Upturn, National Center for Victims of Crime, National Mass Violence Center, Highland Park Council, Sinclair Social Work, because I am a social worker, Adamus, Urban Institute, Justice Research, and STOP program. So just being involved.
As also someone who's been incarcerated, how do you see those intersections between gun violence, incarceration, and also economic justice?
We're seeing that a lot of young black men are carrying these guns, these switches, these 100-round drums. And I don't know why our youth think that owning guns is the solution. I mean, we have responsible gun owners, but these youth and even grown adults are making decisions that are putting them in prison for life, or some of them are not even making it to prison.
Part of my experience, Dion, and your experience is the impact of unaddressed trauma that shows up for survivors and also in our communities. You and I, we wanted to make a difference, right? To help our communities advocate for more resources. We'd love to hear from you. What are some of the key policies or changes you're fighting for right now, and how can people support your efforts?
Like, especially when it comes to VOCA, that's something that has been very near and dear to my heart, just to make sure that we take care of those that are here, that needs the help, that can afford to get the services they need. One of the other things that I'm going through right now, actually, it took 5 years and I finally be in court this year, is I am holding the gun industry accountable for the event that took place on August 4th, 2019, the night of the killing of my father and the other 8 victims. Our lawsuit is against the 100-round drum. This is the first ever in the country. My case is in Las Vegas, but also we won in the Supreme Court to be able to bring North Korea over, the mother company. So hopefully we can get some injunctions and get those 100-round drums off the streets. I know these type of things are life-saving, just being on the street that night and hearing the war going on between the shooter and the police, where the police had to reload and the shooter just had to keep his finger on the trigger, was just crazy. So we know that those things can save lives. The things that I'm fighting for is common sense. If we say get rid of guns, I wouldn't care. We just have baseball bats. I would never put something over human life. We understand here in America that would never happen. But if it had to happen, it would be that way. Some of the other things are just a safe storage. There's a lot of things that we can prevent from happening. A lot of the guns that come into the schools come from home. Like I always tell people, if we go to a Walmart and walk in a parking lot, down every aisle, we'll find a door unlocked and probably a loaded gun in the middle of the seat. There are things that we can prevent. My goal is to save the world. That's my goal. But I always say one life is worth saving. And that goes to our leaders in DC. Somebody has to step up because that life could be yours or your loved ones. I always tell people, it don't matter how much work I've done, whatever accolades come through it, whatever change that comes out of it. When I leave my office today and get in my car and call my father, whether the phone's gonna ring or somebody else gonna pick up, but it won't be my father. That's why I tell them it's bigger than just my dad. It's, I care about the well-being of others, and I want to see our youth continue to grow, and that's why I pour so much into them with the mentorships and the programs that I run just on social emotional learning for these kids that are making these life-changing decisions that's going to end up in prison. I'm going to share to them what it looks like because I've been there for a long time, and that's why I go to a lot of schools and speak to our youth because I'm not reading from a book, I'm not watching from nothing on TV. This is my life. And if you're making those bad decisions, this is what your life is going to look like. And when I speak to them, I have to be real. You can't go in there being this and that because one thing about our youth, they can pick you apart if you're not real. If you don't come in there being yourself, you just wasted your time.
You're given the true reality of what people have to experience from both sides. Witnessing violence in your community, also you have the other side of it, which is being incarcerated. You do a lot of work, Dion. You're on a lot of boards, you're an author, you're a motivational speaker, you work in policy. You also ran for office last year. So what made you want to run for elected office in Ohio? Then also talk about something you're doing now.
Yes, sir. Before we get into that, when I speak to my kids, man, and I'm up there speaking, I always tell them this was never me. But from that situation, instead of allowing that situation to tear me apart, I allow God to work through me so I can work for him. I'm a servant leader through him. And when I step out of my house, he puts his shield on me and sends me in directions. I've never understood why he takes one broken heart to help heal other broken hearts. But I told you, I don't ask no more. I just show up. It's time for us to start standing up. If we want change, it's time for us to start demanding it. And that's what I did. I held myself accountable, but also I wanted people to know it ain't where you been, it's where you going. And if you look like me and been like where I've been, but you're bringing change and you want the well-being of others, why not run for that seat? And that's exactly what I did. I ran for that seat and I barely lost. To be my first time, I ran against a two-time incumbent. My district, like I said, it totaled out 54,000 voters. I ended up finishing my race with 23,000.
Wow.
And I learned a lot because one thing about me is I always challenge systems. And they would say, do it this way, do it that way. And who created those ways? It was a white man. So I always wanted to challenge. Why I have to run it like that? I want to run it my way. And if I lose, I lost my way. And I told people, don't be upset. I'm a black man that had a past and I finished the race, so I won. Because they go through your past, they want to bring up things, they want to attack you, they want to beat you down where you don't even exist no more. So for me to step up, to know where I've been, and knew that it was going to be used, exposed, and put out there to the community to show my vulnerability, and I still finished the race, hey, I won. And I'll be back.
Yep.
I'll be back.
That's what's up.
But if God wants me to focus on the resource center and the community center, that's where my heart's going to be because I got that building in the worst place in the city of Dayton, where it's the high crime, violence, all of that. And I got that place intentionally to bring resources and hope to that community, to be able to watch it transform, but also to see the youth be able to thrive, the community be able to thrive. And I'm bringing social services, mentorship. I got the union bringing in trades to help with plumbing and all of that. So these kids can learn, and adults can learn these trades to be able to make money. Because I always say, if we can make them think for a second, it can change their life. It can change their life. So if we put money in their pocket and Lil Ray say, hey, let's go do this. Like, man, hey, I just got paid. I got to work tomorrow. I got some money. And that's all. We just need them to think for a hot second. They're not thinking right now. They're just reacting. And I always tell them, once you get in front of that judge in that black robe, or that person to the left that sits over there, you can't look back and say, hey, mom, hey, dad, help me. It's to that judge and to that prosecutor over there that got your life in your hands. So, I'm just real with them and direct. And I be that way with them because I love them and I know what their future could be. But you got to allow yourself to let your future grow. And that's why I run my summer camps of social emotional learning. We do role plays, we do self-love, and then I take them around the state of Ohio. We go to the top restaurants to let them see that life is bigger than your environment. But if you're going down the wrong path, you'll never be able to achieve these things. So we need to go back to the drawing board and see how we can work around that. I take them to those places on purpose, to the top restaurants. I want to do this, I want to do that. You can. But you got to give yourself a chance. I just want them to be able to say that they gave themselves a chance. Don't be a victim of your decisions.
Thank you for sharing. If you are listening, go to fudgefoundation.org to learn more about Dion's work. If you are in Dayton, in Ohio, or across the country, want to help support the development of this community resource center, please go to the website and reach out to Dion directly. Dion, it's been a great conversation. I do have one more question. For many survivors, whether it's helping survivors, engaging in legal battles, or engaging in policy work, that can be exhausting. How do you balance your own well-being while fighting for change? And what advice would you give to other survivors who want to take action but may not know where to start?
In the beginning of my fight, and everybody knows this, even you know this, anybody that has experienced that, man, we tend to just fight, because we don't want nobody else to go through that. But man, you gotta have a great support system, whether it's church, whether it's just someone that you can just call and vent and cry. So you gotta make sure that you build your tribe to keep you in line, but also so they can hold you accountable as well. So for them to keep checking on you, because people get on me, Dion, sit down, you've been moving. You don't need to respond to this one. Sometimes they look up and I'll be gone already. Find the things that you love to do and make sure that you take time and be gentle with yourself. Everybody processes trauma differently and everybody grieves differently. Just because I got up in there and started running full speed ahead don't mean that the next person can. Just because I might do this don't mean that you can. So find what works for you and find what you feel is best that you can be effective in. You can always write letters. You can always make phone calls. You can always do this. So there is always somewhere in this fight where you can be productive and also make a change. Get with CSSJ, man. It's an awesome organization, man. They do amazing things. There's so many great organizations that's out here doing things. We got to bring awareness because people don't even know that resources even are across the street. That's why I bring bills up. So if I say, hey, there's a bill, if you don't do nothing, you can't say I didn't tell you. So I always try to keep the community aware of what's going on, of resources, of bills and policies to whether submit or fight against. So that's to yourself. But yeah, man, find what you love to do. Mine's is working out. As I'm still in school, I don't know where I got the time to go for another master's, but I'm in it.
Dion, it's been, as always, man, I appreciate to be in this work with you, the work you are doing. You're saving lives. You're helping so many survivors and communities across the country. We are here to support you. So to our listeners, again, go to fudgefoundation.org to connect with Dion. This year, you are going to hear us talk a lot about access to victim compensation. So educating people about it, doing surveys, hearing from our members, their experiences, doing a lot of trainings to help train people on how to navigate victim compensation. So access to compensation is one of our biggest campaigns at Crime Survivor for Safety and Justice. And also On the upcoming episode, I'm also going to share something exciting about one of our biggest events in 2025. Stay tuned for that. Dion, once again, thank you so much for joining today's episode. I appreciate you.
Man, I appreciate y'all for allowing me to be able to speak. This is therapeutic.
Thank you so much to everyone for listening to today's episode. Remember to become a member of Crime Survivor Safety and Justice. You can visit our website at www.cssj.org. If you are already a member, share that information with a survivor in your family and your community to be part of our Crime Survivor Safety and Justice Network. Remember, you can tune into all podcast episodes on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other streaming platforms as well. Thank you so much for listening to the Crime Survivor Speak podcast. We are healing through action. And as we say, when survivors speak, change happens. Thank you all so much. Talk to you all soon.
Peace.